I'm going to pivot.
Yep.
And I'm gonna push a question towards you because I want to see what you have to say.
All right, go on then.
What's something that modern culture tells us is essential that you think is absolute bollocks?
Social media.
Social media.
I think it's. They're saying it's necessary. I love social media a lot and I use it a lot, but I think it's a bunch of bollocks, and I think it's really just, you don't need it.
Right.
Because I think it makes you. I think social media has changed our minds and makes us a lot more. I think social media has caused a lot of our problems with depression, anxiety, and all of that. And I feel like if we didn't have social media, I don't think it would be as bad as it. I don't think it'd be as bad as it has been. I think we overthink, and the stuff we see and on social media and with all like stuff that pops up and stuff, like I feel like porn. That's another thing that's, I think, destroying the brain. I think I know it sounds like it, I think the internet. I know it sounds mental, but I think there's a lot of. You need the internet, but I think social media is a key thing that's a bit too much.
I think we can put these in two different categories, though.
Yeah, okay.
Because I would say the internet is, my frame on the internet as its own entity, is that it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, yeah.
To have all of the information ever to exist.
Yeah.
Within reason.
In reason, yeah.
At your fingertips is a brilliant thing, and that is fantastic on so many scales.
Yeah.
But as you say, there are some rather nefarious byproducts here, such as social media.
Yeah.
Now, you could voice the same sentiment of social media has tremendous amount of benefits as well.
Yeah.
I couldn't do the podcast without social media.
Exactly.
And something that I have had to sort of switch. I've just gone on TikTok for.
Oh, have you actually?
Yeah,
nice.
I have.
Nice, I have to follow that straight away.
Thank you. And I wrangle with doing that because I don't believe in what TikTok does. I think TikTok's pathogenic.
Yeah.
ChatGPT provided me with, which is a wonderful tool on this point, provided me with an interesting perspective on this that I thought was good. Said, the game is the way that it is. People are on TikTok and you can't change that.
Yeah.
What you can do is you can put good things on there.
Yeah.
And then people can move from a cauldron to a blanket. You know, they can move from somewhere where you've got this corpus of negative behaviour and videos and all the shit that goes on in TikTok.
Yeah.
They can see something good and maybe that'll push them out of it.
Yeah.
Or at least, whilst they're on it, they'll be watching good stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I liked that because I thought what that is essentially voicing is the fact that it's not the app itself, it's the way that it's used.
Yeah.
If you use, this is something I bang this drum quite often. Netflix could make you waste your life if you use it wrong, or it can be a brilliantly useful resource.
Yep.
Because the amount of documentaries and films based on real life and just general
I think there's some
applicable information on Netflix.
Some Netflix stuff is really good. I think.
Brilliant.
I think the show Adolescence was brilliant of what it was trying to show with.
Adolescence is very controversial.
It is controversial.
I'm going to steer clear of it.
All right, fair enough.
But
fair enough.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. That there's.
I've heard people talk about it.
There's some real use in what is found on there, and I think this speaks of the fact that I wouldn't put. What you have to be careful to do on a topic like this is not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Yeah. Meaning there is good to be found there. You can't just. If you denigrate social media to the extent that you go, fuck that, I don't want social media to exist, you would lose quite a lot of good stuff, particularly now. Yeah. Now, I appreciate if you were to all of a sudden wind the clock back and just not have social media, I would wage you would probably have a more enjoyable time. Yeah. There was a podcast I listened to with a guy called David Cho. Okay. And he went and lived with a tribe in the Amazon.
Oh, Christ. Okay.
And he brought them over some stuff from the West, some painting utilities and these sort of things. And he said to them, because they were these marvellously fit individuals, because they run and hunt all day, he said, you guys should come back to America and see what America's like. And, you know, just basically immerse yourself in the culture, see what it's like. Yeah. He was like, what? the place where people kill themselves. You know, they had no understanding at all.
That the world's advanced, probably.
Well, they could not comprehend that a person could be so apathetic towards themselves that they would kill themselves because they didn't understand it. I think, of course, suicide happened long before social media, that's without question, but social media certainly promulgates such behaviours because of the way that it is, the nature of it, I suppose.
Yeah.
I would say social media is very much a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I can understand that, and like I said, there's positives to social media and there's negatives to social media, and
you couldn't talk to your girlfriend if you didn't have social media.
That's true. No, that's true.
You might not actually. Well, you would know her because of school, but you wouldn't have stayed in touch.
No, that's true. No, that's true. I can see what you mean. Like I said, I think. Yeah, there is going to be positives and negatives of social media. There's some parts of social media which I think has affected people a lot. But without social media, you are right, it's how can you make this wouldn't exist? There's a lot of things that wouldn't exist, but as I said, there's the negatives and the positives with a lot. It's with most things. There is always positive and negatives.
There's always positives and negatives to any scenario. Yeah. It just depends, back to that same sentiment we voiced at the start of the first podcast, is you have to weigh up the difference between the two. If there's more pro than con, then go. And keep that here.
Exactly.
My take on this is something that's actually sort of in a strange way. When I was writing the questions out, I thought about this and I thought my take on this would be jealousy. Now, what I'm going to say, this is what I would say is something in society that's pretty consistent. We don't sort of tell people to be jealous, but jealousy is quite consistent.
Yeah.
Ironically, your answer, which is a great one, and I'm glad that you said it, has sort of tied this together, because I think jealousy comes from social media a lot of the time. Where you've got such a consistent level of comparison between people, where you can only feel jealous unless you can't only feel jealous, but jealousy is something that is quite reliably enforced through social media because of the nature of the game. Yeah. You know, it's almost trite now to say this, but people don't post about the roughest times of their lives on social media. No, they don't. Most people don't.
They just show the positives. It's just the positives. All their exciting bits of life, or a bit of just something really silly, just to try and make people laugh and stuff and get clicks and views and stuff.
It's when they're in Dubai, not when they're crying in their bed with their
Exactly. Tell me about it. They don't really show themselves crying in their beds, do they? They just show their best times, and I think it puts jealousy, because seeing people in Dubai, you're like, oh, I wish I was there. But
exactly.
So I think you're 100% right with jealousy. I think it's a lot of just jealousy in our heads. We wish we want to do what they do. Yeah. But we're just sitting in our beds, just fucking praying for a good moment to come out of something, and yeah.
I mean, I'm going to tie a bow there before I say what I was going to say there. Yeah. I sort of cheated there with the point of essential. Well, I think your one was right, of social media is deemed sort of essential. Mine was more, I suppose, commonplace rather than essential.
Yeah, okay. I think, I see what you mean. Like commonplace, I think social media has just become day-to-day life.
No. I mean my one. Jealousy.
Jealousy, okay.
I would say what I said was more something that consistently happens rather than what people say is essential.
No, okay.
Yours is both.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's it. I got there. Sorry.
No, that's right.
That's all right.
I have one. There was one, before I wrote the questions out for this podcast, there was one I wanted to say that is very much a curveball on what it is that we're saying, but I trust that you'll find an interesting way to spin it.
Yeah.
If you could be the best in the world at one random skill, what would you choose? And I shall caveat this with saying that you are not allowed to careerify this skill. So you can't become the best footballer in the world. Yeah. You can be the best footballer in the world.
But you can't become it.
You can't become it. You can't make it a career.
Oh, Christ. That's a really good question. Jesus.
So what I shall just to polish the point for those at home and for yourself.
Really good question.
You can't choose something that's actually particularly useful.
Yeah,
basically.
useful, basic.
Do you want me to give my example to give you a bit of?
Yeah, I've got one, but it's just very weird.
Go on, go.
I'll be the best people pleaser in the world. I want to just be the one that everyone wants to be like. Just make people happy, really. Like people just to see me and I just want to make people happy.
Is this people pleasing without the bad parts?
Yeah, without the bad parts, basically. Just be the
kindest.
Basically, I know it's cheesy and stuff, but
I think that's
just be the kindest guy. I can't make a career about being kind.
Yeah, well.
You never know. In this day and age, anyone can make a career out of anything.
No, but I would say of all the things to make a career out of, being kind would be quite a good one. But you're right. I think that's a nice one.
I want to just be really kind to people, and I want people just to look at me and go like, he's really kind and loving, and I just want to just show to people that you can be like that. You don't need to be an arsehole, basically.
How accessible do you think that is already?
I'm very accessible, and that's why I believe believe something is achievable. Because because I know I'm already a really kind person, I just want everyone else to see I'm a kind person. So like, just everyone around me, like basically every person I meet will see I'm a kind person. So that's kind of what I wish that. I know it's very unusual, but just someone that just goes like, he's very kind. Like every person wouldn't second doubt me. Yeah. So like saying, because most people wouldn't give me. Some people don't give me the light of day when they look at me and they'll just ignore me and stuff. I wish people just every person that comes gives me 2 seconds to talk to them and realise how kind I am.
Yeah.
And that's what I wish. What would be your unusual skill?
Yeah, so you've put me in a negative position here because mine is by no means as empathetic as yours.
Fair enough.
So I'm gonna withhold mine for now because I'm gonna press closer to the point that you've made there because I think it's good. I think one of the simplest things you can do there was a quote I saw earlier that was brilliant on this. It's by the Dalai Lama.
Okay.
If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion.
Makes sense. Yeah,
makes perfect sense.
It does make a lot of sense.
And I loved that because I thought the idea of the utility of being good is not spoken about enough. If you're kind and you perpetually act in such a manner, you will radiate a sense of good feeling, and that can only be a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, there's no harm to be done in being virtuous and being good. And even if, to play devil's advocate on this point, you took the frame of kindness can be exploited, well, something that I have thought more and more consistently recently is that I would rather be kind and be exploited than be wicked and exploit. I would rather take the chance of not being, of someone taking taking my kindness as weakness and be a good person, then not do that.
Yep.
And I think one of these sort of forgotten arts of socialising and humans, I suppose, is being good and being kind.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much.
It doesn't.
You know, it's very simple to do, but we don't do it. And I'm glad that you've made the point of how important it is to you, because I think people will look for ways to sort of hack the game and find the most useful way of improving themselves or working towards their goals, and they forget the one that's right under their nose that will do them a lot of good a lot of the time. If you're good and kind to people, that will pretty much serve you well anywhere. Yeah,
that's why I said what I said, because I think kindness gets you places.
It does.
It does. I think that's why I said I think it'd be a really useful, unusual skill to if you're just kind. I think kindness doesn't cost anything. The best thing about kindness is it doesn't cost anything to do, and it's a way to make people feel good. And if you can make people feel good and make feel like he's really kind and stuff, and you want to give him opportunities, because a kind person is better than someone that's just arrogant and stuff like that, because they're easier to work with, because they just want to help you and make your life easier, which is why I tried my best to be that, because my goal was I just want to make people smile. I just want to say to the world, like, this is me, and I want to express myself, and that's how I express myself to the world. Just be kind. Kindness doesn't cost anything, and I just want to make people happy.
Well, for what it's worth, I think you do a very good job of that already.
Thank you.
I think it's quite clear that that's something that's important to you.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice. I think it sort of adds a like a feeling of control that I don't think people necessarily have, where it's like, it isn't that hard.
It's not.
It's really not that hard.
It's not.
You know, it takes some practice, because it sort of draws on some resources close to the point of sort of confidence to be kind. But kindness isn't hard, and it will do you good. So I'm gonna dampen the dampen the point by saying, and I've got a through road with it, which may well find its way back to kindness.
Yeah.
Mine would be dancing.
Ooh, okay, all right.
Now I should tell you why mine should be dancing, and you hopefully the threads will start to tie themselves, or maybe I'll tie them.
Yeah.
If I was a sensational dancer, I think I would be a happier person. And I think in being a happier person, more specifically being a more confident, comfortable person, I think I would have more of a energy to make other people feel good.
Yeah.
Because you get that with some people, there's a radiance of good that sort of sits round them.
Yeah.
Where you just like being near them because they feel good. You know, they're happy, or they're energetic, or they just make you feel nice.
Yeah, because they express themselves.
They express themselves.
Dancers are very good at expressing themselves, and being really good at dance probably means you can express yourself, and you're expressing all that positive energy, and you're hoping it comes off to other people. Yeah. Sorry, that's how I felt about it.
That's the point of the conversation, is you jump in whenever you want.
Yeah.
I think it also speaks to some more like underpinning tones of you're willing to be vulnerable. You know, you're willing to show your character. You're willing to provide a space where there is no judgment. Because you're doing something that someone could judge, which is sort of you in an inverted sense saying, I'm not going to judge. Because I'm putting myself out on the table here. You know, you could take the piss out of me for doing my dancing, but I don't care.
Yeah.
It's actually something that I'm going to try and learn.
Yeah,
because
I'd be interested to see you learn that.
When I walk into the club doing a Charleston, you'll know.
You know something happened. Yeah.
No, I've actually been thinking about it quite a lot recently. Is sort of artistic expression as a through road towards feeling better about yourself.
Yeah.
And I think it's something. I mean, I think this is a great shame that people don't actually sort of do this more often. But I understand it. I understand that people will. On the point of something like dancing, people won't express themselves because they feel uncomfortable doing it.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, I hate it. If there was anything, and this is actually a question that I've got on here, of if you could permanently delete one emotion from the human existence, what would you delete? Mine would be this. It would be feeling uncomfortable about doing something you want to do. Yeah. Because I hate it. I think there's I mean, I understand. I'm like a seasoned veteran of understanding this feeling of wanting to do something and being scared to do it and not doing it. Yeah. I would love a world where people didn't feel that way. I know, annoyingly, sometimes there are caveats here that, I'm not even going to put the caveats in. I can't even be bothered. If there was a world where people thought, I want to dance, and there was no apprehension about doing what makes you feel good, I think we'd be living in a much better world. Yep. We could live in that world if we tried. Yeah. You know, that's something, in theory, if we all have a collective effort to start popping out the pop locks and the Gangnam Styles without any weird sense looks of judgment, then we. I think judgment's a good motion as well, like just people judging you. I wish that's something I wish. I think if no one really judged us for what we did and stuff, I think we'd be a lot happier and stuff. Because when no one judges you, you can just do what you want. Like with the dance and stuff, you just want to. If you just want to do what you want to do, but you're fearing what other people will think. Yeah. And I think the fear of what other people will think is why we don't do what we sometimes what we really want, because we just don't want to be laughed at. Because you get those weird looks in the corners, like, so what the fuck is he doing? But that's the reason that
So if no one could had that feeling, or no one had that emotion of just judging people, I think we'd all be a lot happier. I think
we would be, but that says a lot about the other person.
Yeah, it does.
It's this is something people will understand what I'm saying here, but I'm going to say it just because it might be useful. If someone has any sense of judgment towards someone who is enjoying themselves, then they can fuck off.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there are a few people that I will immediately sort of refuse to provide any sense of respect for, but one of them is someone who takes the piss out of someone who's having a good time.
Yeah.
You know, I think
it's just a sad
you do see this as someone who's finds themselves in clubs from time to time. You can see this.
Yeah.
Like you do see people like making a joke of someone. I think, so fuck off, man.
You're just being miserable. You're just trying to find the negativity in people. It's just like,
they're coming for a good time.
Yeah.
You know, and you have no right to be that way to someone who is here for a good time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think mine would be dancing, and I think mine would be dancing for almost, I suppose, for what it would. I suppose to make the point, it would be that so that I felt more comfortable to make other people more comfortable.
Yeah.
There's a creed that I'm trying my best to live by, and that is that I want to provide. I want my presence in a room to be something that makes the people around me feel as much license to be themselves as possible.
Yeah.
So the idea of someone feeling as though they couldn't be themselves around me is something I hate.
Yeah.
I like, if there's anything I could sort of, on an emotive sense, if there's anything that I could achieve, it would be to be a space where people felt comfortable to be themselves.
Yeah, and when I first meet new people, so when I first met you, I was a bit shy and I keep myself cards closed, and the more I got to know you, that's when I'm more opened up about what I like and stuff, and how our friendship really started. And I think people will just put their guard up on certain things, definitely.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah,
I do think you're right.
Exactly.
And I'm going to pivot again, and I'm going to say, what do you think is worth regretting, if anything?
Worth regretting.
First of all,
think.
Go on.
It goes back to relationship. I think failure. I think you learn from failure, so I think it's worth regretting failure.
Yeah, I like that.
I think if you didn't regret failure, you wouldn't want success.
Yeah, that's good.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's good.
And I think to me it's really important. It's like, because if let's say if every time you failed you didn't regret it or you didn't feel anything, I don't think you'd want to go for success.
Yeah. And
the biggest teacher, I can't remember who says this, like the biggest teacher is failure. I don't know I can't remember who says it.
It's true.
Yeah, but it's true. Someone quotes that, I can't remember who it was. But so the biggest teacher, and I think failure is just such an important thing for us to have. If we didn't have failure, I don't think we succeed. And I think you can't succeed without failure. Like I said, failure is the greatest teacher, and I think it's just very important. That's something I think that's something that we all should still regret.
Spot on. I think it's quite easy to do something good for yourself, and you sort of regret doing it. You regret doing it for how uncomfortable it made you feel.
Yeah.
But I agree totally that is a worthwhile regret. I suppose it's almost neighbouring regret, but I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
That if you don't go through the discomfort of feeling, or I suppose, let me bring it back to relationships because I think it's useful.
Yeah.
If you go over to a woman, talk to them, and it doesn't go the way you wanted it to go, you will regret it not going the way you wanted it to go. You won't regret doing it. You'll regret, why didn't I say it a different way? If you failed, or whatever, you'll regret some form of the interaction.
Yeah.
I think exactly what you said there, that if you are receptive to the idea of failure, that you get one step closer to where you're wanting to go.
Exactly.
This is something that I was speaking to Toby about this before we started the podcast, that you can't know that you're wrong. Let me pose you a question. If you were to look at each one of your beliefs, each thing that you believe, would you say that they're all correct?
No.
No?
For me, yeah.
The things you believe.
Things I believe, yeah.
Would say they're all correct.
Yeah, they're all correct. Yeah, the things I believe are all correct. Yeah.
But if I was to ask you, do you think that one of the things you believe, given the fact that you're aware of the fact that at some point in your life you'll come to terms with knowing, actually, no, I don't. That was wrong. That's not true.
Yeah.
Would you agree that there is one of your beliefs that is wrong?
Yeah. No. Yeah. I think that's a great question. In the future, maybe when I get up,
you would wage that somewhere down the line there'll be something you believe now that you don't believe.
Yeah, no, in the future. Yeah, no, in the future when you've learnt and stuff, I think you'll probably think, yeah, I definitely believed that when I was younger, but I don't believe it now.
Do you see the hypocrisy there?
Yeah, I see. Yes. Yeah, I see it a little bit. Yes.
You don't realise that your belief systems or your ways or your actions are wrong until after the fact.
Yes.
I looked backwards at when I first started sort of working on myself and getting better at things. I went with the approach of sort of I'm a hammer and everything else is a nail. It's like, let me just work hard at everything.
Hard, yeah.
And as a result of doing that, I came to a point within the last year probably where I understood that there was some more complex elements to the point where it's not as simple as just working hard at things. I realised that some of the things I believed were wrong.
Yeah.
And I think you can't know that and you can't grow to the point of where you currently find yourself without being open to the fact that some of the things you believe at the moment are going to be wrong.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think that's growth as well. I think it's just growth of what you believe in stuff. You're learning still. Like, so we're still learning. We're only 20 or something like that.
We are humans in general. There's no trial course of being a person. No. You're learning on the job in every sense of the word. This is something to sort of just put the point there for the sake of it. I think when people are hypercritical towards their parents, it's different if your parents have done something particularly wicked, but most of the time people's parents haven't done something wicked. They just might have done something a bit shitty at some point.
Yeah.
I think people can give their parents a lot of shit for doing something bad, and they don't realise there's no course on being a parent. You've got all of this abundance of pressure and anxiety and stress, and you've got to show up as empathetically and lovingly as possible. It's hard.
It is hard.
And people will make mistakes, and you should allow them to make those mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think people being, or parents being replaced with the general question of person here, you will make mistakes, and that is just par for the course. You cannot not do it. Yeah. I think Christian said this at the start of the podcast, where he said about he was talking about he put his American voice on, saying
such a good accent.
I have no regrets. He said, I never understand people that say that, because if you've had no regrets, then you've never lived. Yeah. It's true. Yeah. It's true. I think regret is one of those funny emotions where it's the least actionable emotion you can feel, because you can't do anything about regret. No, you can't. Or you can make sure you don't feel the same feeling again, but you can't change the regret itself. Yeah. Even if you wronged someone in whatever way and apologise to them, you'd still feel regret, because you just can't shift that. Whereas other emotions, there are things where you can rectify it after. Regret is not particularly actionable because, as I say, you can't really reverse it in most scenarios. Yeah. But it's useful because of what it outlines. And I think I would rather have regrets than not have them, even if they are the most sort of painstaking of feelings a lot of the time. No, I think you're right. No, you are right, because, like I said, regret is part of human nature. You are going to regret a few things, and I think you have to
you have to understand it's okay to regret things, because if you don't regret things, how do you learn? And
absolutely, wonderfully put.
Yeah, and that is kind of how I feel about it. It is just, we learn, we're humans, and regret it's part of life. It is life.
There's a quote that I love on this that I think shall encapsulate the point pretty well.
Yeah.
It's, if you think the price of pain is high, wait until you get the bill from regret.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
I think that's really good, mate. I think it's really good.
And with that being said, I'm going to gradually conclude this. Have you got anything that you want to sort of sprinkle in here as to conclude? Is there anything you're thinking about? Anything that's sort of popped up as a result of us talking about this that you want to add in here before we?
I've nothing on my head right now. I've got a lot of things to process in my head about
What's the first thing you're thinking about processing?
I've just figuring out my own relationship, really.
I thought that was probably
figuring my own relationship from what I learnt today, and about I don't want to like, if I don't like change things about, I don't want to, because back to regretting, I don't want to regret in the future and think to myself, well, I should have done this, and now I should have tried to do this, and not wait in a few weeks where it might have all gone wrong, and I'll just regret it.
Yeah.
And that's how I think regretting relationships, it's all just linked in together about learning, which, like I said, it's all about, to me, it's a learning experience. That's what it is. It's a learning experience, and we learn each day how we're going to change things, and this is what we try and do with this podcast. It's trying to give people an idea of what we as humans we might try and do. We'll try and help people if we can help them.
Yeah.
To try and maybe it's okay to just tell them it's okay, really. Tell them it's okay. You can make mistakes. You can have regret, and it's all part of human nature. And it's not like you're not the only one. And I think people, I love when people, I want people to feel like it's okay. You're not alone. You're not like the only one in the world that feels like this, and it's okay. You can do what you can do to make yourself happier.
There's a lot of solidarity in being aware of the fact that other people suffer.
Exactly. I
think I'm going to round this out by saying one of my pretty tall orders of sort of tasks has been the fact that as a result of becoming a happier person, I've become more aware of the fact that there are things in my life that I'm particularly thankful for.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, the byproduct is that I'm especially aware of how shit it will be to lose them.
Yeah.
The thing that really made me aware of sort of the idiocracy of such a thought is the fact that everyone goes through that.
Yeah.
You know, we all lose, and it's sad, and it hurts, and it will hurt when it comes.
Yeah.
But you find your strength and your love and your reason and your purpose in the fact that other people suffer as well.
Yeah.
You know, you will find sort of brotherhood or love or whatever it is in the fact that you share the experience of difficulty with each other.
Yeah.
I think one of the most something I quite like about difficulty is the fact that when you go through something hard with someone, it makes that relationship that much stronger. Yeah. I don't think many of the greatest relationships in the world are built upon a foundation of flowers and butterflies. I think they're built on a combination of that and some soot and shit.
Shit, and like getting through it all. Yeah. Like I said, it's just you're gonna have ups and downs. It's part of life and part of relationships, and it's just how you deal with them. Yeah, exactly like that.
And with that being said, I think that's a good place to leave this.
Yeah.
I want to say, as I like to do with the end of these podcasts, you know how much I appreciate you.
Yep.
But I'm going to move that in a different direction today and say that as someone who does, as you know, struggle with this sort of performance anxieties of the podcast, I was really looking forward to this talk today.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we had it, and I have enjoyed it as well. And I wanted to thank you for that.
That's all right.
Because just having the space to talk about things that I'm interested in, and with someone who is interested and has their own interesting and insightful frames on things, is nice, and it makes me ever more aware of why it is that I want to do this.
Yeah, and
thank you for
same for you, mate. Like, I love what you're doing. I think it's brilliant. I think it's, like I said, it's just something different to what I've heard in the past with other things, and
Good.
it's really just, like I said, it's my cup of tea basically. It's
Good.
talking about stuff that
You
needs
had
to be. It's my cup of coffee, and yeah, and once again, man, thank you. Once again, I love it. It gives me a space where I can talk about things, and that's why I love coming on, because it just gives me the air just to say what I want to say.
Well, I'm glad you get as much out of it as I do. That's the whole point of this.
Exactly why I come on.
Good. Well,
thank you very much. See you later.
I'm not gonna. Do you know I fucking did that again. I hate doing that.
When I do that, I just go.
I pushed my hand out like that to point at the camera.
And someone's got like.
And I did it with Denver on Dad's Space. He put his hand out, and I watched the recording afterwards.
It's pain. Oh my god!
I felt so bad, and I'm glad that I saw you do it there, because I swore to myself, I was like, I'm never going to make someone do that ever again,
and I was just
without at least rectifying it. But with that being said, see you in a bit.
Yeah, that's funny.
Fucking thing.
Oh.